In the previous video, we saw this example of using vector mask on geometric shapes. When the object you wish to select and mask out from its background has a simple contour that can be defined by geometric shapes, then working with the vector shapes in Photoshop and turn them into a vector mask is a good solution. But what if you have a more organic shape, like this elephant here on the left? So first idea come to mind would be to use the quick selection tool, which makes sense because it has quite a well-defined outline. So using the quick selection tool, we can start making the selection, but immediately we run into an issue because the background is almost the same color as the elephant. Although we can see clearly the difference, Photoshop won't be able to identify the outline. So you will have really hard time selecting something like this. And you will run into the same issue even if you have a simple selection but a very complex background. Relying purely on the quick selection tool or magic wand will not lead to a perfect selection. So when every technique fails, there's always something to fall back on, and that is the pen tool. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the pen tool and create a vector mask on this elephant, and then we will put it on another image like before. So first of all, I always select the pen tool and set it to path before I start doing anything. Then I also make sure that it's set to combine shapes option. And I just start drawing over the image. So I won't create the vector mask just yet. I'm going to do that at the end. I don't need to see the result because I can see how it works just by drawing the path. Now what I do here is that I either just click or click and drag along the edges. Whenever I just click, it creates a sharp corner. Whenever I click and drag, I can create a curved point with handles. And it's also good to know that by holding down spacebar, you can adjust where your last point will go. Once again, this is something I have a separate course on, how to use the pen tool. So if you feel like this is something very important to you, I recommend to check that course out. Otherwise, you can just practice doing this on your own and figure out how to best use this tool. Generally, what you should try to aim for is less anchor points if possible. So don't overuse the anchor points. Don't start adding points like that. That doesn't lead to a good result. So instead, try to get used to using curves and follow the points or the corners of the silhouette. And once again, I'm just going to increase the speed now of this video. So that is the outline, which now we can turn into a vector mask. Remember, either hold down the Command or Control key and click on the icon here, or select the option from the layer menu. Once you do that, this is what you will get. So a really good selection, but it's not ready because we also have to deal with these parts here in the middle. So I'm going to keep the vector mask selected, still use the pen tool and still have it with the same options. I'm just going to simply go over these details. So before we cut this out, I'm just going to draw it the same way as before. It's already part of the vector mask, but because it's also set to add, we can't actually see any difference at the moment because both of these shapes add. But once we set this back to subtract, that's when we will see the difference. So when I'm ready with my outline, that's when I go up here and choose subtract front shape. To start drawing a new shape, all you have to do is to start drawing it, and you can also change it in the meantime. So if you end up keeping it on subtract shape, you might find it difficult to finish the shape, especially once you start creating an outline like that. So I prefer to keep it on combined shapes while I'm drawing and only set it to whatever combination I need at the end. So when I'm there, I can then choose subtract. And you can see if I select the full image now, so I'm just going to click away from the vector mask and go back, we can see that we have a very good selection of this elephant. So it's ready to be moved on to the other image. Let's say the mountain path composition would be a good one for this. So I select it, drag and move it over this image using the move tool, and then I let go here. And we can always decide where we want to put this. We can even put the elephant on the road, which would be an interesting composition. So let's just move it behind the girl. That way it can be behind like that. And then before I would make this smaller or bigger, remember what we've learned to turn this into a smart object. So if I right click, I can then choose convert to smart object. And now we can make it smaller if we want, and then we can move it further in the background also if we want. So we can really decide what we want to do with the elephant. I think it's actually quite a good composition to have the elephant also on the road, and maybe I would just move the girl slightly to the left. This way we will have a bit of a drama in this image. We don't know what's going to happen. But what's important to remember is based on the object you wish to select, you might need different selection techniques and different ways of masking them out. And all of these techniques are useful, and you can combine them in any different ways. What's important is to keep practicing, and whatever you do, always aim for a non-destructive workflow. And in the next video, we will continue with this same example, but we will have a closer look at how smart objects work.